Christ.
Hello, welcome to another edition of Rugby Nation. I'm Nick McArdle. Christy Doran is here from Rugby.com.au. Andrew Swain, who called the game on the weekend. The Argentinians getting it done over the All Blacks. And love the set at Burke's backyard there, Swainy. Welcome to you.
Thanks, Nick. It's looking fantastic out in the backyard. You just caught me watering the garden. There you go.
Excellent. I've seen your place. There is no garden. And Reece Hodge, terrific to have you on board with Rugby Nation this week, mate. Obviously, a big game coming up for you guys this weekend, but I reckon we should start by just taking it back a couple of days. Hodgie, did you watch that game? I assume you did, or at least seen the highlights of it. What a performance by Argentina over the All Blacks.
Yeah, it was actually just watched it with Banksy, my roomie for the week. We had a barbecue, kind of post a big training day on Saturday, and we watched a fair bit of it in our room and then came together afterwards. So, yeah, obviously Argentina, extremely impressive, in defence, really first and foremost. And then they played with a lot of skill as well. I think they only had one handling error for the whole match compared to quite a few from the All Blacks. So, yeah, they're going to be a very tough opponent this Saturday.
Reece, so you guys watched the game in your rooms, did you? And then you came together for that barbecue. So I was under the impression that you're watching the game over the barbecue.
No, we just finished training. I got back to our rooms as the game was starting, so it was kind of a bit of half. Yeah.
Nothing better, a bit of Malbec and a bit of asado over a barbecue, watching the Pumas play, mate. That sounds perfect.
It does sound perfect. I wish that was us.
Too good. And mate, they were impressive. What about everyone talks about the passion element from them, but some of the crazy eyes that you saw from some of the Pumas out there on the field, it was a sight to behold, wasn't it? Have you experienced that firsthand?
Yeah, I think obviously Pablo Montero gave a bit of a line in the sand in the first few minutes there when he said he was playing for his country, and obviously they were a very passionate team, very skillful and very physical. So I think we experienced it on the Gold Coast a couple of years ago when they came and beat us in a pretty tight match up there, and then also I think it was 2018 in Salter as well. When they were up, 20 or so points in the first half against us. So, we've definitely had some tight matches against Argentina in the past, and they're a quality team, and they're only getting better.
Hey, Swainy, just on what you saw from the commentary box and the defensive line from Argentina was just impenetrable, and it wasn't just, to me, they weren't just making tackles; they were absolutely bashing the bloke with the ball. And putting him on his backside and pushing the attacking sorties back 2-3 meters every time.
Yeah, I think that was the key element that you saw from the Pumas, that they were getting off the line, they were making their tackles, they were dominant, and then they were making the All Blacks have to make decisions under pressure, and they were putting. They put the All Blacks under more pressure than I've seen any other team do in quite a long time. And it was quite evident from up the top. You could see that advantage line just creeping back with every shot, and they were putting two guys in the tackle. They were tackling high. They were tying that ball up. They were slowing down, landing on top of guys. I think I heard Morgan Turinui talking about it, that they were lying on top of guys, and that second that it takes to roll away, which they're quite entitled to do, was just slowing the All Blacks ball down enough to make it really hard for them to get any front foot ball. So, yeah, it was quite a sight to behold. And I had Andrew Mertens in the commentary box next to me with his eyes rolling in the back of his head thinking, how are they going to get out of this? And they didn't.
Reece, what was it like, this game being played on Australian soil, only the second time that these two nations had played at a neutral venue? Was it a bit weird looking back, looking at the game from afar? You're not even in Sydney when the game's being played and it's in your own backyard, but was it an enjoyable experience as well to watch?
Yeah, I guess of us watching on TV, it probably didn't have as much of an effect as if we were at the ground, I guess, in terms of the novelty value.
Sorry about that, mate. Sorry about that. That's our problem.
No, but I guess, yeah, it was kind of obviously I noticed they were playing with the Adidas ball, and I think it was obviously technically a New Zealand home game, so it kind of did have that Kiwi home game feel to it, just from all the Adidas branding and stuff like that I noticed. Albeit in Western Sydney, but it was actually a quality game of rugby to watch. Obviously, the All Blacks have been, one of the top couple of nations in the rugby environment for a number of years, and you always kind of in the back of your mind expect them to come back, and when the game's on the line, they usually either pull through for the win or come very, very close. So to see Argentina hold them to 10 points until the final play there was pretty impressive, and it was, as I guess, we had a vested interest in watching it, but just as a rugby supporter, it was a pretty awesome spectacle.
It wasn't only that expectation that the All Blacks might come back. I mean, over the years, and you mentioned Salter, Argentina have been in a position to win Test matches, and sometimes they've faded out at the end as well. And so neither did the All Blacks didn't come back, but nor did Argentina fade away. Two men that you know so well kind of masterminded that in Mario Ledesma and Michael Cheika, and we saw the emotion that Mario showed after the game. But let's talk a little bit about Michael Cheika and his influence and the way that he turns teams around. He did it with the Waratahs. He did it with the Wallabies in 2015, taking them to the World Cup final, kind of, before you were really on the scene, I think, Reece. But you've seen what he brings in that emotional sense, that that inspirational kind of sense. Can you talk to us about that and what Michael Cheika can do in that space?
Yeah, I guess firstly he's a very deep thinker. I think he comes up with ideas that no one else does, for one. But I guess just in terms of his his speeches and the way that he kind of it's kind of very hard to explain the way that he talks pre and during and post match. Is just kind of draws upon things inside you that you didn't kind of know you had, to get a result or a change of action out of you. And obviously was lucky enough to be coached by him for 4 years with the Wallabies, and I enjoyed him as a head coach, and was lucky enough that stuck by me personally. So I always enjoyed my interaction with the Czech, and he always came up with some pretty interesting and pretty creative ideas.
Reece, can you just expand upon, I saw you speaking to the media on Sunday, you also used the word deep thinker around Michael Cheika. And I reckon there's a few people out there that go, is Michael Cheika a deep thinker? Like, having looked at some of the tactics perhaps that he used, there might be some people that question that. So what do you actually mean when you say he's a deep thinker?
He always thinks of all, I guess, the different permutations of the way the game can pan out, how the defense is going to react, and it's almost like a chess game in his head. If we go here, they go here, and he's often planning 2 or 3 phases ahead in terms of what the defense and the attack's going to bring. So he doesn't work out all the time. If it did, it would have been pretty unstoppable. But he's in that sense, he thinks very deeply about the game, and there were some moves over the years that between him and Bernie Larkham that came off, that when they were first put to the team at the start of the week, you're like, is it going to work? But lo and behold, you get to game day and it actually come off, and the defenders were exactly where they said they were going to be.
And he and Mario Ledesma have also struck up a wonderful friendship, and this is kind of an opportunistic thing, Czech being with the Pumas now, but Mario as a coach, he's developed as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, for sure. I think I probably didn't have as much to do with Mario as a lot of the forwards would have in our squad when he was in the national setup. But in terms of, he was very big on the contact side of the game. So he was heavily involved there during his time in the Wallaby setup. And I was always really impressed. Obviously, he's a past player. He knows how to relate to the guys, and just having that guy that you respect him because he's been there, and he's been in the environment that he's coaching on, and I think that always helps, just being able to relate in terms of a player-coach kind of sense. And I think he's obviously would have had a very disappointing World Cup last year to not make it through the quarters, and the way they bounced back in their first Test match of the year has been extremely impressive. And not just the win, but the way they did it. So yeah, we're on notice for Saturday.
And just on that, in the post-match, you also heard Mario Ledesma use two words that became synonymous with Michael Cheika's era: culture and identity. Is that something that Michael Cheika was always pushing through the time that you were coached by him?
Yeah, there are two pretty big elements of the way he operated in the squad, and yeah, I think it's probably been carried on a little bit by Dave Rennie, probably in different ways, but they're kind of the buzzwords in rugby these days. But they're both very important in how the team interacts both on and off the field, and they're often reflected in whether you have success or whether you don't. So they're pretty important parts of rugby, I think.
So the Tri Nations now is very much up for grabs, and Argentina, you know that they are going to be chock full of confidence and self-belief. Did the way they play and that result, does that have any impact on how you guys prepare for this weekend? Is there something that you guys need to do a little bit differently at all?
I think with any opposition, there's elements of analysing where you think they're vulnerable, but also elements of you can't change a game every single week. You got to, I guess, back your ability to do the basics well, and then kind of adjust little scenarios and game plans according to what you think the defence is going to bring and what you think they're going to bring in attack. So our coaches and leadership group have sat down over the past 48 hours and come up with a plan for how we think we're going to beat Argentina, and it's up to us now to really test that out at training with intensity, on Tuesday and Thursday, and refine that towards the back end of the week, and hopefully that can transfer onto the park in Newcastle on Saturday.
Yeah, and Reece, look, I'm noticing that you're wearing a Manly. Is it a Manly longboard shirt you've got on there?
Yeah, repping it.
There it is. What was it like returning? And we're not sure where you'll line up this week, but what was it like wearing the 10 jersey, which you grew up playing a lot of 10 in Manly?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I think all through those years I was playing 10. I grew up wanting to pull on that gold jersey in the number 10. So it's definitely a jersey that I'll be keeping. I didn't want to swap on the weekend. I actually swapped my one against Japan a couple of years ago. So yeah, I'll hang on to that one dearly for the years to come. So yeah, as I said on Sunday, I've spent a lot of time there throughout my younger years, and a lot of time there at training over the past few years, and a little bit at Super Rugby level. So yeah, I felt comfortable there on Saturday, and yeah, we'll see what happens this week.
Sanchez, mate, he was outstanding against the All Blacks on the weekend. Scored all 25 points. Really pulled the strings. He and Cabelli, are they guys that you're going to have to target?
Yeah, I think so. I think target is probably not the word I'd use. We'd have to be cautious of
Yeah,
what they can bring. There are threats right across the park, though, in saying that. So we can't focus too much on Sanchez because, he has that ability to create for the guys both inside and outside him. And there are so many guys in their team, young and old, that performed so well last Saturday. So, yeah, they're obviously world-class players, Cabelli and Sanchez, and driving around the paddock. But, yeah, we've got to be on our game right across the board, not just with those two.
Reece, noticed on the weekend that the Argentinians, although Pablo Matera was brilliant at the breakdown, they didn't put many plays into the ruck, into the breakdown, and they fanned right across, and they had this really big defensive wall. As a 10 or as a player, what do you do to kind of get around that? Is chip kicks in behind? How do you operate?
You'll find out Saturday night, hopefully.
Right, okay. A little bit of an insight into perhaps how we'll go this weekend. Yeah,
no, I think Argentina, the way they defended, they covered so many options. They had Cabelli sweeping in behind for those chip kicks. The front line was obviously coming very hard and putting those dominant hits on. So yeah, I guess, as I said, over the past few days, we've kind of put our heads together to try and come up with a way that we think can penetrate their defence and create some trust scoring and opportunities for us, and hopefully that comes to fruition on Saturday. We'll see.
Very good, very well answered. I did hear Mertz say in the post game on Saturday that that traditional, that old adage that you've got to earn the rights. You got to try and make yards up the middle, earn the right to go wide. But he was making the point that actually at times during that game, Argentina were quite narrow and there was space on the edges. And he said sometimes you just have to play where the space is. And the old rules go out the window. You just get the ball where the space is. Is there something in that? Reece, I don't know, whether you can talk to that. And Swaney, you might have a thought on that.
Yeah, I think there's so much of Test rugby is about balance. I think, you can't do the same thing over and over in Test. I think, whether it's New Zealand in the past, they obviously employed that tactic of the crossfield kicks and chip kicks, and they use that to spread the defence, and then once the defence starts to spread out, they go through the middle. So I think it's about manipulating the defence both in terms of the front line and the backfield, and we've got a plan around that heading into Saturday, and hopefully what we do in the first half works, and if not, we're gonna have to adjust it on the run, and we have to be good enough to problem solve.
Yeah, and I think you saw that with the All Blacks on the weekend. They were so many times they were one pass away from being in that space that they needed to be. There was a couple of passes at the end of the game where the pressure was starting to mount. Rieko Ioane throws the ball into touch, or Satutu, throws the ball to Damien McKenzie, and it lands on the deck. And there was just so many times. And I think that comes from the pressure that the Pumas were creating as well in defence. That's what I read out of it.
Hodgie, it was interesting looking at when Noah Alessio and Ire Simone made their debuts at 10 and 12 a couple of weeks ago, that the inexperienced side, and it was noticeable that you were the most experienced bloke in the back line, coming off the bench, albeit. So it's quite fascinating, the changing dynamics of the Wallabies and your role in it. How has it actually changed for you now that there's no Will Genia, there's no Bernard Foley's, there's no guys with 70, 80, 100 caps to their belts there?
Yeah, it's I was actually speaking to Willie the other day, and he was saying that he can't believe that I'm actually one of the old heads in the back line now. He used to bully me throughout my younger years. So it's definitely it's changed massively. I think obviously coming in myself as a 21-year-old, and I thought I was young then, and now I'm 26, and there's 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds. So it's it's that fresh, the exuberance of youth, and I guess a fresh approach, and it's been awesome to see the young guys all step up, and throughout the 4 matches so far, we've seen some real talents emerge, and guys show they belong on the Test stage. So I think in terms of both Noah and Ire as well, they can be proud of the way that they fronted up on debut. Obviously, it's not always going to go your way, but the way that Noah bounced back in Test 2 and closed out the game there at 10, and I think he's got a lot of Test matches ahead of him also. So it's about building experiences, and sometimes you do have to make mistakes and lose sometimes, or have outcomes not go your way to be a better person and a better player. And I think guys are only going to benefit from that experience going forward. And it's up to guys like myself, Dane, Whitey's obviously been around for a long time now, and even guys like Marika, he was fresh a couple of years ago, but he's played more than 30 tests now also. So there's it's just about having conversations daily with both young and old, and coming up with the best sort of game plan going forward. And as I said before, I think something that we probably haven't done as well in the past is problem solving on the run, and it's something that's was probably done well in Wellington, and done well obviously with a red card and a yellow card on the weekend in Brisbane also, and probably not done as well in games 2 and 3. So we've talked a lot about consistency in Test footy, and one good performance is while it's nice, we're looking for 2 this weekend.
That problem solving on the run, that thinking in game though, that is something that's synonymous with experience as well, isn't it? I mean, you're right about game 2 and 3, and it's been a criticism over the years of the Wallabies that plan A hasn't worked, and sometimes there hasn't appeared to be a plan B to go to. I'm sure there always was one, but maybe you just didn't get there. Is that kind of that lack of ability to change gears? Is that a bit to do with that inexperience in the team as well?
Yeah, I think the more games you played, the better you know how to do it. I think Simo in particular was really impressive on the weekend. Obviously, he's played more than 100 tests, and just seeing the thought process and the process he went through to change the lineouts when Swino went off there, and our whole kind of starter play is changed off the back of that, and there was conversations on the run, between him, Hoops, myself, and Whitey to really try and find the best and most simple plan for us heading into that second half with a man down. Seeing the way that Simo went about it was just a picture of experience. He was calm, took his time, and then delivered a really clear message. So, I think experience obviously helps, but you got to step up and do it at some point in your career. And I think the young guys have been really good at, not being shy and just being really confident in their decision making.
Well, Reece, thanks very much for joining us on Rugby Nation. Go well this weekend. I know that clearly the Rugby Championship is up for grabs, so there's a lot of eyeballs on this weekend, the Wallabies and Argentina.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Good luck, Hodgie. Good luck, mate.
The Tri-Nations even, Nick. That's you're right.
Oh, all right. Picky. And thank you for your company. I'm going to ignore you two. Thanks for your company this week on Rugby Nation. We'll see you soon.
Oh, thank you very much.